Okay, December 1st, part 2. So we went over credit card authorization forms. I'm going to leave it at that. If you have specific questions or you just feel like this is going to cause you a lot of stress or whatever, please come talk to me. Obviously, I don't deal with the guests face-to-face quite as much as you do. And if you foresee some issue that this may cause, bring it to my attention. I may just not be aware. But we're kind of testing it out. We figure if we give it a week, we'll see how challenging that is when the weekend comes along, if you guys are feeling overwhelmed because you're waiting for me to respond or however that works. Side note on that, and I don't want this to be a go-to, but we can also refer people to third parties. We can refer them to book through Expedia or hotels.com. I would probably stick with those two, so that they give that company their credit card information, and then we receive the money from that company. They need to make sure if they do that, though, that they are booking a prepaid reservation. So if it's a guest pay, it doesn't matter. It has to be a prepaid reservation. That does ensure that the hotel gets paid for the room and tax. The challenge with that is it really a guest we want? Because it is those third-party guests that are causing most of our issues, as far as room cleanliness and just taking advantage of the hotel in general. So use it as a tool to help, I hate to say it, discriminate. But sometimes we have to do that in order to protect, one, if it's a safety thing, it protects, you guys and our other guests, but also just protect our rooms too. Our rooms are getting trashed like they've never been trashed, so we're trying to do our best. Okay, so moving on. Couple quick brief things. There is going to be a little bit of a schedule change. However, with the holidays, we're probably going to have, almost a different schedule from week to week to week. So look at the schedules often. Let me know right away if there's an issue. I am doing my very best on getting the holidays to suit everybody. I don't know if I have everybody's information yet, so you may end up on the schedule if you haven't discussed with me or put it on the notice what your preference are. Obviously, we are a lot slower than we would hope to be. This week is starting to look a little bit better. We're in the 30s as far as rooms sold instead of the teens. That is fantastic. I would love to see us in the 40s and 50s like we were a few weeks ago. I don't think it's going to happen, though. I think 30s is probably the best we're going to see for a couple weeks, and then I think it's going to go back down to the teens. It is not my intention to cut hours. However, in order to replace Zeta's role while still keeping some of the commitments that I've made with folks, who've been with us for a little while, there is a possibility for a few folks of getting cut. I want to say maybe 4 hours for the week. Again, if this ends up causing you a great concern, something like that, come talk to me. Because I would much rather give somebody 4 extra hours a week than lose a staff member who's been great. So definitely come talk to me if there's issues and concerns there. I definitely have some flexibility, and maybe it's a thing where I've got to talk to the other person and say, hey, can I take these hours from you? Are you comfortable with that? Blah, blah. Additionally, I don't expect anything to last very long. The schedule and the things that we're doing right now, I would expect to last through December. By January, I'm hoping we'll see a little bit more normal numbers, at least in the 40s again, where we can start adding a little bit more hours and things like that. Just as a heads up, if we're making career choices and life choices, it is probably worthwhile for you guys to know that I don't foresee us having 2 clerks on the same shift until about summer. So I know when I was a desk clerk, I didn't, there were certain times I didn't enjoy working alone. I just really want you guys to know as much as we know, as much as we've decided, so that, you can make decisions for yourself, how comfortable you are here. So that's that. Couple more things real quick. When you're putting rooms out of order for housekeeping purposes, so just say housekeeping didn't get a chance to clean a room, please make sure that you are setting the dates the start date and the end date for today's date. So say today we couldn't finish cleaning all the rooms, which is not a huge deal, but I want to put that room out of order. Today's the 1st, so I would put start date December 1st, end date December 1st, and make sure that that room is set to come back dirty. What that means is that tomorrow when Rosario gets her paperwork, it's going to show that as a vacant, dirty room. What's happening is that we're setting them, like we would a reservation, start date today, end date tomorrow, and that's, skipping a day. So it's just kind of an unnecessary day that room's out of order. Not the end of the world. What is even more important than that is making sure that when we are putting rooms out of order, we are being mindful of whether that room should come back dirty or that room should come back clean. We did have a few issues of both. Room will come back dirty, but it's actually clean. Room will come back clean, but it's actually dirty. We end up renting it. We have problems. Again, not the end of the world, but just an easy tool. When you guys are doing those things, you can realize, oh yeah, this makes more sense. Makes the next day a little bit easier. Tax exempts. Reminder, Expedia, Priceline, Hotels.com. Those are really the only 3 that we're seeing these days. Those are tax exempt number 2. You don't need any sort of backup on those. But if we're doing tax exempt 1, those are 99.9% of the time, they're government workers. They're here on government business. They're paying with a government card or something to that effect, or direct bill. Those guests, we do require the certificate. So if you are making a guest tax exempt, you need to be asking them for the certificate. If they're telling you that they're tax exempt, you need to ask them to provide you a certificate. This certificate should have a tax ID number on it. Usually it's like a 98- blah, 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 blah. It should say the business or the, government group, city of whatever school, hospitals, things like that. Those are the folks that are getting that tax exempt. When you receive that certificate, you do 2 things. 1, the certificate goes in my box, or even the night audit box. Either one is fine. Or 2, inside the reservation, whether in the comments or next to where you mark it number 1 for tax exempt, you want to put that federal tax ID number. You also want, which you guys are fantastic about putting that tax ID number, but you lack a little bit in adding the company name. So whatever company is on that tax exempt certificate, that company name should either go in the company section or it should go in the comment section. Either one is fine because Laura and I are tracking these and potentially somebody else down the road, but that is crucial information. So I've run a little bit over again. I'm going to go ahead and end this, and I'm going to do a really quick part 3. Sorry.